Welcome to LibreQuest. My name is Matt, and this is episode number 48. Today I'm joined by Linux gamer and content creator Sean from Linux City on YouTube. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. So you create a lot of content centered around gaming on Linux. Can you tell me what your thoughts are on the state of Linux gaming today?
It's definitely a lot better than it was 5 or 6 years ago, and especially with Proton, Steam, especially when Steam came to Linux. That was a huge game changer.
And what kind of titles, like, because I've asked this to other people before, but what kind of titles are you playing right now, and what's your experience as far as them working kind of out of the box?
Right now I'm playing Doom Eternal, and I'm playing Days Gone. Those out of the box, those work phenomenally. Doom Eternal, especially in Vulkan, is wow. If you got a good, even if you've got a low-end graphics card, it's really good with Vulkan, so it runs really well. Days Gone, if you're using Proton Experimental, it works pretty well. There's a little bit of stuttering, but it's once you get past that, you're all right.
And would you, like, if you were to run into somebody that was a Windows gamer and and they said, I'm curious about gaming on Linux, would you feel like comfortable actually recommending that they make the switch from Windows to Linux as a gamer?
It depends on the title. Like if there's somebody that plays PUBG, something like Black Ops, the new Black Ops and stuff. I would recommend probably staying in Windows, because if those are their main titles, then But if it's other titles like the ones I mentioned, like Doom and if they go on there's a Proton, not Proton, but I think it's Proton DB, and it has a list of games on there. And that's a good starting point to see what works and what doesn't.
So are there any workarounds that you know of for those titles that you mentioned, or are those things that just don't work right now?
It's because of the DRM. That is a huge issue with, especially like with PUBG and stuff that requires DRM. And that's why a lot of that stuff doesn't work in Linux. And I'm hoping someday that it does, but I mean, I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
So these are those two, PUBG and what was the other one?
I think it's Black Ops 3.
Black Ops 3, and that's the Call of Duty series?
Yeah, the Call of Duty series. Usually it's the newer ones. The older ones, I believe, work all right, but it's the ones like, I think Black Ops 2 and 3 have issues working in Proton because of the DRM, so...
And there's so these are like two games that there aren't like Lutris or whatever just doesn't work with them.
Yeah, you can't, even with that it won't work. Yeah, I've even tried that. It just refuses to run.
Okay. Well, you recently did a video and you were talking about things in Linux that you would like to see improved, and I was actually wondering if you could go over some of those issues and what you'd like to see kind of in regard to Linux gaming.
The one that I'd like to see is definitely HDR, because it's something that seems to be more commonplace, especially if you've got a 4K television. People would know what HDR is if you mentioned it. But with the recent consoles that are out, those are using HDR. I've tried HDR in Windows. It's okay. It depends on your display too. It's all dependent on the display. But it would be nice to have in Linux, because the brightness, the colors that come out of that, it's truly amazing.
Yeah, like I always say, if there's something like a feature that isn't in Linux, I just don't even know that it exists. So I'm not really sure what I'm missing,
Yeah.
That's how I tend to be on things. All right, so I did want to ask you, because I love hearing these stories, but how did you first get started with Linux? How were you first introduced?
Well, it was through an article I saw online. This was years ago, probably back in 2007. I first got into Ubuntu. I believe it was 704 or 710. I'm not positive on it. And when I first saw that, I was like, wow, this is something. This is totally different from Windows. Of course, I couldn't totally switch over because, I'm a gamer. I can't, at that time, Steam wasn't really, it wasn't over there yet. So, of course, you could use Wine, but that's, yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch with that. So.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it can be hit and miss when it comes to Wine, for sure, or any of the other compatibility tools for gaming. Did you ever play any of the like, native titles like Nexus or Urban Terror or any of those Assault Cube? Did you ever get into any of those games?
Oh yeah, I've tried those. Yeah, an open arena.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. Because if people that don't know, that's Quake 3 arena, but just modern version of that. But I've tried those. Those were. I couldn't believe that some of them games were there and they were free. Yeah, they were free. I'm like, really? This is great.
And Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. Did you ever play that one? Yeah.
Yep.
I still play some of those. I don't know about you, but I still enjoy them. I think they're fun, especially if you're setting up like a LAN. They're really fun titles because they're easy to get a hold of. They're free, and you can just network together. And I don't know, they're still fun to me.
Yeah, they're definitely still fun today. Absolutely.
So I'm wondering about your opinion of. Because I've heard this said from quite a few people that the current experience on Linux, and this is kind of a gaming aside, right? But the current experience on the Linux desktop has become a bit boring. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that compared to your previous experience, like 2007 or when you first were introduced to Linux. How does it compare today? Do you think it's become boring?
No, there is so much choice out there compared to 2007. Now, 2007, if people would have come in, at that time, yeah, they probably wouldn't. They were like, what's this? I don't know. But nowadays, if you're going into Linux, there is so much choice out there, so many desktop environments to choose from. I don't see how it can be boring nowadays. I really don't.
So I'm just kind of curious. You did a video about Garuda Linux, and I watched that. It was a very good overview, by the way. And then you also did one about Pop! OS. And that's your current desktop is Pop! OS?
Yes, it is. Yep.
So I'm curious, do you, like when you install a Linux distribution, do you typically stick with the default desktop environment, or do you go through and change things out to your liking?
Previous versions of Pop! OS, I used to use a GNOME extension that would put it dash to dock instead of the normal way that GNOME looks. So I would it would look like it would in Windows or whatever Mac. But now that they've come out with 2104, with I believe it's called the Cosmic Desktop or Cosmics, I forgot what the name of it was, but I don't have to do that no more because they've totally made it so now I don't got to change anything. It's like right out of the box. It's great.
Yeah, no, that is great. So you took a break there for a while from creating content, and I just want to say that it's really awesome that you're back. I really enjoy all the things that you do over on your YouTube channel, and I want you to talk about where people can find your content and just your different channels. And I know you're on Discord as well, right?
Yeah. I'm Linux City on YouTube. Very easy to find. Now Discord, I think there's that's the same name, but I don't know if it's in the search on Discord. But if not, I can always put it in the description or something.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for being here on the podcast today, and I appreciate it. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can join me on Locals at LibreQuest.locals.com, where I'll be posting exclusive interviews, some of my music, and other things, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about as well. For other ways to support me, you can visit LibreQuest.org, that's LibreQuest.org, and thank you for being a listener. Until next time, I'm Matt, and this is LibreQuest.